this one, I enjoy covering this topic because I'm not shocked, but I'm kind of like, how do we get a president elected like we did in the last election, and yet 3 times the number of viewers view the media of the dude who didn't get elected? How does this work? What's going on there? What are the dynamics? Well, we don't get into those actual dynamics, but we talk about the numbers. Fox News crushes CNN, MSNBC viewership as Don Lemon's morning show has its worst week since launch. Fox and Friends more than tripled the audience of CNN this morning. I'm reading this to you from Fox because there is virtually nobody else who reports on these statistics, because CNN statistics are so bad. How does that even pass as a viable news network? And I'll tell you why some of it happens. It was Stephen Colbert was ripping on Don Lemon for wearing a hoodie. And it was a hoodie. He tried to pass it off as a sweater with a hood on it. That's a hoodie. Sorry, Don. That's a hoodie. So he spends a good portion of his time with his co-host talking about his fashion. Not the news. So no wonder, CNN has got this whole issue, because when they do get to the news, it's so wacky one direction that it's just not believable. And I think a lot of people realize that, and they're like, nah, we gotta even this out by going to look and see what's on Fox. So that's what they do. Fox News Channel continued to dominate cable news viewership last week as MSNBC and CNN struggled. So Fox News averaged 1.4 million viewers from January 16th to 22nd, making it the only basic cable channel to crack the 1 million viewer mark. ESPN finished second with an average audience of 825,000, followed by NBC, HGTV, and Hallmark Channel. CNN managed an average of only 417,000 viewers during the same period. 417,000 viewers. And you got the entire world available to watch it. That's basically, Tim Pool had close to 200,000, I think, views on, was it 175,000 views on, the live stream with, Steven Crowder? I mean, you hear what I'm saying here. So Fox 1.4, ESPN, people care twice as much about sports as they do the news that CNN is putting out. That is wild to me. I mean, it used to be back in the day. Got to stop saying wild so much. Sorry. It's just such an easy word because so many of these storylines are just, what's going on? Fox News also obliterated CNN during the primetime hours of 8 to 11 p.m., averaging nearly 2 million total viewers compared to only 444,000 for CNN. So, I mean, 450%, something like that there. CNN is just being crushed. And it's my understanding, and we've talked about this a number of times, that Stephen Colbert is up for possibly hosting. Was it Stephen Colbert or was it one of these late night talk show hosts that I don't watch? Looking at taking the 10 o'clock slot. They're trying to get a comedian type dude in to compete with Greg Gutfeld because his show is bringing in, over 1 million per episode for sure. I don't know if you've watched that show. I watch it every now and then, because it's kind of it's a comedy show, but it's also kind of a freak show. What are they going to say next? What funny story? And they've got the big dude, the wrestler who brings his enormous, that guy's huge. He brings his enormous belt in. They've got quite a cast of characters on that show, but it's doing really well. One thing that came to mind when I was reading this news article was you don't hear Tucker Carlson reviewing his own wardrobe and making excuses for this. This isn't a hoodie. This is a sweater. It's got a hood on it. It's a sweatered hood. That's different. Tucker Carlson gets on and gives you his opinion, gives you what's been written for him. and does it in just boom, boom, boom. Same with the majority of the other guys from Fox. You might not agree with what they're saying. You might think that their storyline's off, although oftentimes I believe it's fairly accurate. It's just got a real hard right push to it. And some of that is because they're the biggest, conservative network out there, and they need to fight against the nonsense that is CNN. The CNN's basically taking themselves out of this fight they've got their new CEO, Jeff Licht, who took over for the guy who had an affair with his coworker for 15 years, but was out in the open about it. What was up with that? Yeah, that had to do with the whole Time Warner purchase, and they came in and bought CNN, and they just, dumped the company upside down and said, we're starting over. We're actually going to move more to the center, and we're going to report on the news now. Oh, what were you doing before? I think before they were literally just, reporting on Orange Man bad. And then when he's no longer office, they realized that, coming on 3 years with him being gone, they didn't have a lot else to really center their audience with. So you are literally seeing the fallout from that as we talk, because these numbers are, they're substantially disparate between Fox and CNN. MSNBC continued to struggle among the advertiser-coveted demographic of adults aged 25 to 54, even losing to rates-challenged CNN among the critical category. Fox News averaged 176,000 viewers among the key demo compared to 80,000 for CNN and a dismal 69,000 for MSNBC. That's in a demographic. So during prime time, Fox News averaged 256,000 demo viewers, while CNN managed 93,000. They're just getting crushed on every single segment of the news. And MSNBC settled for a dismal 91,000. I used to watch MSNBC back in the day for some of my financial news. They would have more what I would consider accurate reporting, or people that understood some of the bond markets, some of those types of things. So I would tune in there, and there was less, partisan type coverage, but I don't trust anything out of hardly anybody anymore. I just don't. You see a storyline and you go, okay, I agree with that part. This part over here, you're over exaggerating. This part here is probably just flat not true. And I think there's a lot of aspects to what CNN reports on that, to me, they just flat don't ring true. So I, can't really go that route. I will read CNN articles, because if I can get my point across with CNN articles, and I can say, hey, I read all kinds of sources, and I do. I regularly read from CNN. There are a couple of good authors. There's a couple of good reporters for CNN, but they are few and far between, right? Despite topping MSNBC, the tiny demo audience for CNN was the network's worst turnout in the category since May of 2014. So they are just continually getting clobbered. CNN this morning, the recently launched morning program built around Don Lemon. Remember, he came from night television. He was one of their premieres. They moved him to the morning, the 9 o'clock slot. What a downgrade. Hey, there's Don Lemon on the 9 o'clock? He's doing, wake up with Don Lemon and let me read you the night's news, because the real guys got to record the news there. I don't even know who's on CNN anymore. It had its smallest audience since its launch last year among both total viewers and the crucial demo. Fox and Friends averaged 1.3 million viewers, while CNN this morning managed only 331,000. So again, quadrupled, more than quadrupled. I think that comes out to, right? When it comes to the key demo, Fox and Friends averaged 180,000 viewers compared to only 65,000 for CNN's morning show. So you've got a multiplier of what Fox does numbers wise versus CNN of 3 or 4 times consistently. While CNN this morning struggled to attract viewers, it did land some free promotion when late night host Stephen Colbert's mocked Lemon's wardrobe. Here's a good photo of it. And we can take a look here. On the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, the comedian insulted the hoodie sweater and suit jacket combination that Lemon wore Thursday on CNN. So what I wanted you to see, which we didn't have audio for earlier, was Don Lemon explaining that that's not a hoodie. You know, I'm very fashionable and I have a lot of wardrobe, and that wasn't a hoodie. That was a sweater with the hood attached to it. I mean, seriously, if you're going to say that kind of stuff, I'm going to go to you for fashion advice, maybe, but you're a network morning person and you're explaining what you got going on. I don't watch CNN much. Yeah, that's kind of where we sit, right? So even Stephen Colbert takes a pop at CNN. But it's going to be interesting to see how CNN approaches that 10 o'clock slot. Because, you know, that's where the big boys, you know, kind of compete, you know, with that whole comedy type thing. And as of lately, Fox has just been crushing it with Greg Gutfeld. And I think he's funny, but I read so much news that at the end of a day, I don't really need to have more jokes on top of the content I've already done. Maybe you haven't read any news, and I think a lot of people haven't read any news throughout the day, but I kind of do it for a living. So I don't need more humor. I need to know what the actual story was. And so I'm going to go to other areas for that. But I do find the content on the Greg Gutfeld show entertaining. It's rather cutting at times, but you know, it's funny, right? It's like Steven Crowder, and I hear him say stuff and I cringe. So it makes it funny. It's funny. I believe a great man once said, "What the is that?" Colbert said while showing an image of Lemon in the getup. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, admitted. The 5 was the most watched cable news offering of the week with an average audience of 3.3 million viewers. That's Gutfeld show, isn't it? I think so. While Tucker Carlson Tonight, Jesse Waters Primetime, Hannity, and Special Report with Bret Baier rounded out the top 5. Along the way, Fox News aired 92 of the 100 most watched cable news telecasts last week. 92 out of 100. That is crushing it. That is absolutely crushing it. And mainstream media, you know what they do? Yeah, some people are watching our stuff. I mean, some people, vast majority of people don't know how disparate these numbers are because they don't pay attention. And that's why I kind of want to bring it up, because those numbers are, yeah, it's something else, right? So those shows, Tucker Carlson, I enjoy watching Tucker, but I also find I can only take so much because he's just got that whole, I find like I either got to watch an episode of Tucker or I got to watch an episode of Ben Shapiro, because they're just kind of like, all right, I can watch him for 15 minutes. I'll get the storyline, figure it out. And some of Tucker Carlson's writing, though, is really, really strong. You know, it's not his delivery. It's his delivery on top of what's written for him that's really interesting. Jesse Waters, Primetime, I enjoy watching Jesse Waters. I like the way that he delivers things. I find him to be believable, and his storylines, I'm like, yep, 2 thumbs up. I can go with that. Sean Hannity, yes, I can watch Sean Hannity, but I would watch Jesse Waters in front of him. Hannity has a better understanding of a lot of topics than I do on certain stuff. So I respect him for that. Special Report with Bret Baier. I have been listening. I think it's his podcast. I've been listening to his podcast lately, and I get a lot of good stuff from that. Fox News in the morning is one of the news sources that I hit up pretty regularly. Hit Fox Local, Fox News, Como here in Seattle, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, conservatives. I will watch a lot of that, but then I'm going to go through and I'm going to see what everybody else has to offer too. Cause you got to know what the other guy is doing so that you can kind of write where you sit. And there are some stories that everybody's like, huh, this is a wild one. And then they, pitch it the way that they do. So I take a look at everything. See what people are doing, because then, all right, so if they're reporting it this way, this is probably the way I would understand it and the way I would report it. But every now and then you get one of those stories where you're like, wow, this came out of left field and CNN wrote it. That's weird. Let's cover it. All right. So those are the numbers. That's kind of what's going on. This is much of the same. And this is why CNN has had such a massive shakeup, because after Orange Man Bad left office, or, wasn't reelected, however you want to look at that, a lot of mainstream media has just tanked because everybody was like, we hate him. We hate him so much. We're going to do yet another story on him. How about all these ridiculous top secret files being found? Mike Pence. Now, Mike Pence. Seriously. Is this stuff even top secret? Do we care? Hey, the one story that we're going to cover as soon as it comes out, maybe it's out. Can you guys tell me? I would love to know the Paul Pelosi. I want to see that police cam footage. And I'm doing this because some officer had a cam on his chest, right? And when Paul Pelosi came to the door and opened the door in his underwear, he was in his boxers. Somebody was saying, oh, he wasn't in his underwear. He was just wearing boxers and he was wearing a loose fitting sleeping shirt. All right. It sounds like underwear to me. But anyway, so Paul Pelosi comes to the door and he opens the door and then he walks immediately back to the dude that is going to slam him in the head with the hammer. I want to see that footage. I want to see what we're missing. And the fact that there's been such a fight against having that footage released. And you know what their argument is? Well, that footage could have been tampered with. Really? What are you going to edit in there? What are you going to edit in there? What are you going to add? What are you going to subtract? I want to see that footage. That footage last night was, I think a judge ordered that footage to be released. That should be some good stuff. I want to see that. I want to see what the deal is there, because I've had kind of running bets with a lot of my friends about what is, thanks, Jeff. You're correct. Hit that like button. I've had a lot of friends say, I think this happened. I think this happened, and I'm kind of like, well, you remember what Elon Musk said that he thought happened? That I think it was the Mercury News, small little paper out of somewhere in California. They said something happened, might have been a rendezvous, something like that, something along those lines. We don't really know. I think that very well could have happened. Tim Pool thinks it might have been drugs, might have been a drug. Pelosi's like, what, 81, 80, maybe older? His wife, she's 81 and maybe he's 83. Yeah, short of Viagra, you're not doing a lot of hardcore drugs in your early 80s. That's just my take on things, because your body can't take it. You know better.